Hello, everyone. Today, I have a very, very big pleasure to talk with someone that I have known for more than 15 years. So, Dinia Monge. Dinia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, we are in this episode of the Changing the Game with something very new. That's my first interview, which is an international interview, right? So that everybody that I talked so far was from Australia, were from Australia. So now we're talking with Dinia that's currently in Panama. Let me introduce you guys to Dinia. Dinia is the co-founder of Hola Igualdad. That's a boutique consulting firm that focuses on promoting gender equality in organizations. Trying to make them efficient and effective in achieving more inclusive societies. Dinia's interest in changing the status quo for women with the corporate world began when she first experienced on her own the glass ceiling phenomenon, as she refers to this invisible barrier that keeps qualified women from ascending to high-level position because of what that gender implies. As a gender equality consultant, Dinia helps organizations raise their awareness on unconscious bias and discrimination and rethink processes and policies in order to bypass these biases. Dinia is an enthusiast about educating new generations free of gender stereotypes. Her lab is her own home. So Dinia is a mother of an 8-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl. And he ended up that the real teachers for her are her own kids. Is that fair enough, Dinia?
Fair enough. Thank you very much for the introduction. And it's an honor to be your first international guest.
Very good. So a very curious fact here as well is that Dinia mother language is Spanish, my mother language is Portuguese, so we are fluent in each other's languages, and here we are speaking a third language, so I hope you guys don't mind too much our accents. So Dinia, normally the first question I ask for the people we come to the show is to ask that, is not a question. I ask you to let us know a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. So, well, I live in Panama, as you mentioned, but I'm actually from Costa Rica, which is a little country in Central America, right next to Panama. And I've lived so far in 3 countries. So in my mother country, like most of my life, until I graduated and had my first job there. I'm an industrial engineer, by the way. Afterwards, I moved to Brazil, which is not very common. Like mostly my friends, if they studied abroad, they would study in the United States or in Spain. And I just like Portuguese, and it was kind of a crazy move. And I would say that speaks about how I am. I like to be out of my comfort zone because I really didn't speak Portuguese very well. And although it's very similar to Spanish, you don't think that when you get to Rio de Janeiro, which is where Wilson is from. Brazil has different accents, and that was a challenge for me to do a master's degree in business administration, and that's where we met. And I lived there for 9 years, and it's been already 8 years since I arrived to Panama. My husband is Panamanian, so that explains the move here. And also I'm closer to my family. I've been, while I was in Brazil after doing my MBA, I worked for BCG, which is a consulting firm in strategy. I worked there for 3 years. And afterwards, I continued in the strategy area, but I went to PepsiCo. I guess it's a big firm everybody knows. And I worked there for 6 other years, 3 in Brazil and 3 here. And so my background is basically strategy and revenue management also. But 5 years ago, something happened. And it's not very rare. And I'm pretty sure there are many people who will listen to us and and will identify with this. And I was hit by kind of, I'm not being able to balance my life. That was after I had my second kid. I have two children, Andre, who is 8 years, that's Wilson read in my bio, and Alicia, who is 6. And although I managed with one kid, when I had my second one and I had to travel, and it wasn't as intense because I had a quite cool boss at the moment, which I really negotiated, and he did his best actually to help me balance my personal and my professional life. But it was taking me to a point that I was like, I really don't want to continue traveling with this frequency, which was maybe once every 6 weeks or 2 months. And I also got to a point where I started questioning myself, what am I doing? Like, is this really close to my heart of, the famous question that you get at some point where you want to really understand what's your why. And that took me to take a not that rational decision. I consider myself very analytical and rational, but that was the first big non-rational decision I took, and I quit my job. I really didn't have like a safety net. I didn't have like, what was I going to do afterwards, but it felt liberating. And as soon as I got out, I realized what I wanted was like to help other women get that balance, like, why couldn't you really pursue a professional life and also be at comfort with yourself and how you're dealing with your time management, especially around family. Not that family is the only thing that you have on your plate when you want to balance your personal life. Somebody who doesn't have family can perfectly be in front of this dilemma also of how much time I'm spending for myself and how much time I'm dedicating to my work. And for the past 5 years, it's been like it's been like a road that goes in different ways and ups and downs. And that road took me in the past 3 years to explore more about gender equality in the corporate world. Well, actually not in corporate only, in organizations in general. And that's where I'm at, basically a result of my personal story.
So that's quite interesting, Dinia. So it looks like, your story of finding difficulties to find your place and to be able to cope with maternity and professional life is not a unique story. So there's lots of people that have been in this show have mentioned, the challenges that they had before. So what is quite unique in what you're doing is actually you made that challenge of helping other women in the same situation as your purpose. What you're now living out of that. So what I'll do, so I want to go one step back, right?
Sure.
So one of the things that's quite curious about your profile is that you are an industrial engineer. So you did a full-time MBA overseas. You ended up working for a very prestigious consulting company, BCG. So when we tell that story, and by the way, you told that story very humbly. So that's an amazing profile, an amazing achievement. So there are quite a number of young girls out there that so maybe they don't even feel that sort of career is for them. But it's something that you have done, it's more than 10 years ago, which is quite amazing. So can I ask, and by the way, so women in STEM, women in technology, that's quite a modern, is a claim from the business, right? So we all want to have more women in those sort of, careers. And then we have a real case of a woman that followed that career, but at a certain point couldn't stay in that career because of she's a woman. So if I go back a little bit, so do you remember why you chose to do engineering?
Yeah, actually I do. I loved math. I was very good at math in high school. And I remember, like, you know, maybe not having enough information about all the possibilities that math implied. And engineering was kind of mainstream if you like math. There was also economy. And I was between becoming an economist or becoming an engineer first. And I remember a very respected man who came over to our school to help us decide, you know, and he was an economist. And he said, if you like to give your opinion about something and you want that opinion to be implemented, then don't become an economist, become an engineer. And that was like, oh my God, yeah, no, I want to see things happening. I wouldn't see myself like just talking and nothing changing. And that was why I took the decision of studying industrial engineering.
So very nice. So in the very beginning of career, have you had worked as an engineer? So do you had that experience of implementing?
Yeah, in the services, maybe not in manufacturing, only like very little gigs. But my first work was at Citibank, and I was a process redesign engineer. So it was all about, you know, taking the quality of the services to the next level and working with multifunctional teams. And from there, I started getting these skills of, you know, analyzing, making your diagnosis, identifying root causes, and then going after those root causes and prioritizing. So that was maybe the moment in my life where I worked more as an engineer per se, or as what we call the industrial engineer. That I don't know how it's in Australia or in the other places that people are listening from, but that's
very nice. So well, then, you know, the progression of your career, you decided to study abroad, like you said before. So, and you did mention that you did something different there instead of going to US or going to Spain, as most of the Costa Rican, students or young professionals would do. So you ended up choosing to do your MBA in Brazil. So you did mention that you liked Portuguese, and what is more in that decision to go to study in Brazil?
Yeah. So I was studying casual Portuguese because I was not thinking of living in Brazil or in Portugal or any other Portuguese-speaking country. And we were casually introduced to the possibility of getting a scholarship from the Brazilian government. And I was like looking for financial aid, either in the US or in Spain. And that opportunity attracted me. But really, like what really attracted me was like, cool, I'm going to a place where I don't know anyone. Like I will be me and we'll discover, we'll start from zero. And I don't know, there was something in that, because I actually didn't know one single person in Brazil, or I didn't even actually understood well the difference between the states that I was looking at where I was going to possibly study. So it was kind of the challenge that was in there, everybody goes to Spain and everybody goes to the. So I guess I just like the idea of doing something different.
So what I like about what you're saying is that I feel like out of, how can I explain that? So I normally make decisions that are against the status quo. Is not the normal decision that everybody would take. And I can see that flavor in what you're saying. So, and I think that requires a lot of, self-confidence, and that's very nice to see that in you. Mm-hmm. So then you go to Brazil. So, okay. So some people that might listen to these podcasts might be looking at, what are the options that I have in my career, or, and maybe studying abroad is one option. So, and they would potentially think about, other English speaking countries, but, alternatively, you have these other destinations, right? Can you share with us maybe the top 2 best things about your decision to go to Brazil?
Okay. Oh, that's so difficult. Only thought to. I really became a Brazilian at heart. I really loved the culture. There were things, of course, that were really different. You know, I come from a country that its population at the moment was maybe not even 4 million, and Brazil was 180 million, I guess, when I moved in. So it was a, you know, personally and professionally, it opened up my eyes so much, like about what does it mean to live in a big country and with different regions and almost like countries within countries and differences in cultures that you could easily perceive, especially if you're somebody from the outside. Industries, you know, like it was like it opened up my eyes to the world. Like I could eat the world, you know, I could do anything. It was, so that was very, very, very good. Like it was very important in my experience as a human being, not only professionally. And the other thing, let me try to choose. I really liked, and maybe it's not only Brazil, maybe it would have happened in other countries, but the fact that you go to a place where nobody knows you really helps or becomes an important part in the process of getting to know yourself. Because when you live in the place where you were born, you're always measured by the standards of the society where you're raised, right? And especially in a small country as mine, like, okay, so these people who studied in these places and who worked in these places, and everyone like starts to make a mental picture of what you are and what you represent. And when you go to another country, it's so free and so liberating. Like you can start from scratch. Nobody knows you. Nobody has any biases. Talking about biases, nobody has any biases about what you have. Or maybe they do have biases about what this gringo, how they would call me, right, in Brazil, like what this gringo would be, like this foreigner, but not biases about my personality, about who I am. So that was very, very powerful as well, very enriching.
It's interesting that you mentioned about the fact that you didn't have those references, and for you not having those references was actually liberating, where some other people would find that quite stressful and you know, I think the other way around. So it's quite nice how you take that. So what was the biggest challenge?
Living in Brazil?
Yep.
I would say, well, if I take a look like at my whole 9 years, maybe those moments when you need to be close to your family and you are so far away and it's so difficult at the moment. I remember my dad got sick for the first time. He had an urgent surgery, and I was like let know like at 5 a.m. something like that, and the last plane for that day left half an hour earlier, so I wasn't able to catch the plane. Had to wait 24 hours. So like if I think of difficulty, I would say when you need to be close to your family or to your friends and you're so far away. As if I think of challenge like as in cultural adaptation, I think Brazilians, although we're all Latinos, Brazilians have a really, how can I say, liberating way of approaching relationships. And that was a shock for me. I say Costa Rica, of course, it's a very conservative country. So yeah, that was quite a shock.
I'm wondering what you mean by that, Dinia. So, well, the good news for you is that, you know, if you put in perspective, you were very close to Costa Rica being in Brazil. So imagine being in Australia and having the whole family back in Brazil.
Yes.
So
yes,
there are
totally
things that actually scares me and make me think, like, you know, things that if something happened in Brazil that's urgent, I might not get there in time at all. So that's something in the back of my mind. So then you graduate, you go to this prestigious consulting company and keep working, building your career. So very well. At a certain point, you decide to go back you did go back to you went to Panama, not Costa Rica, but close enough to be in a, it's in a neighbor country. So was that already when you left consulting back to a corporate career? Was already because you need more stability in a place, so you didn't want that sort of career in consulting has a reputation of being long hours, lots of travels, and etc. Was that already a move to have a more stable lifestyle?
Yeah, definitely. I realized that heavy, intense lifestyle wasn't for me. Although I appreciate, I have so much gratitude for my years in BCG, because I learned it was like speed learning, it was very intense. But I remember once when we were having like a celebration dinner, and one of these very respected, and that I until today respect a lot, one of the partners, and he was like sharing with us, oh, you know what, like my little kid, it was 2 or 3 year old girl, and she says she doesn't want to spend time with me because I haven't spent with her. Ha ha ha. And he laughed. It was something about, about the little girl like being mad at him because he was never home, and he shared it, and maybe he was just having the need to share that with other people. Today I see it like that, but at the moment I was like, what? That's not the life I want, And maybe today I see it like maybe it was that the only outlet or the only people whom he could share it, and he just didn't know how to manage it, and that's why he left. Yeah. But in that moment, it was like it clicked for me. I'm like, I'll never have a family here. And even though I didn't, I wasn't even had a boyfriend at the moment or anything, I really I really wanted a family on the long term. Didn't know the long term when was that, but that was one of the things that got me thinking when I had like the opportunity again to choose consulting in Costa Rica or going to corporate.
That's a big eye-opening statement for consulting companies, right? And I work for consulting companies, so in the way we make our consultants to feel good about the fact that they could potentially balance their lives with their families, quite relevant. So thank you for that.
And actually, I hope that things have changed, because back then I remember there was this women's initiative, and it sounded in paper, it sounded beautiful. In practice, it wasn't. Like, I remember the first part-time manager, and I was in her first project, like I was part of her team, and she wasn't putting just half time into that project. So, at the moment, it seemed like, oh my God, those who want balance are not going to make it in consulting firms. I hope that today, like, there has been progress, raising awareness about all this need to balance personal and professional life.
Yeah. So then you shared your story of going to Panama and having another job in a large company. You're still having to manage your life as a young mom, and the need to travel and etc. And the flexibility you need wasn't there. You ended up finding yourself in a position of having to leave the job. Mm-hmm. So as part of this process, as I understood, you ended up founding Hola Igualdad. For everybody in the call, it's called Hello Equality.
Or, because it has a catch, Hola can be hello with an H, or hola can be a wave.
Oh, here we go.
In Spanish.
Catch. Yeah, you're right. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, so Hola Igualdad, I founded with other 3 colleagues. We are all gender equality consultants certified by United Nations. And what we do is help organizations and identify what are the gender gaps throughout their processes and how they can deal with them. And in this process of identifying gender gaps, we have to go through a phase which is raising awareness. right? Because many of the gender gaps, most of them are created by gender bias. And gender bias are unconscious, or an unconscious type of bias normally. And all humans have unconscious bias. It's part of our nature. We need them to survive. We need them to make decisions. It's just a fast way of thinking, right? But in order to make those fast decisions, we start building maps in our heads based on stereotypes and gender stereotypes. So we help companies or to train their staff to identify this gender bias, this unconscious bias, and afterwards to design processes that would help, I say bypass, I call it bypass, because gender bias will continue being there. You can improve throughout time, but you have to work them like intense with an intention. You have to work them with intentionally. But meanwhile, there are processes and decisions being taken in companies. So you have to design processes that will guarantee that even if there are unconscious bias within your current personnel, with somebody that you hire new, a new manager, that you will be able to bypass them and be able to close those gender gaps.
Very nice. So are you satisfied with how the organizations receive you guys and how they're open to make these changes?
Yeah, it's been very interesting to see how, especially the companies that have been working with us, like, for some time, how they get excited and how they start becoming kind of activists within, but it's a positive activism, like within their companies. And what's very interesting is also to see how like for me to understand, if there's a company, I don't know, of 500 people, I'm not impacting 500 people. I'm actually impacting, understanding that those people process what we're teaching. We're impacting 500 times their families, times the friends that they start. So it's really a fast and efficient way to make changes. So in general, companies that already look for us have some level of consciousness about this. Others are because they are being requested by somebody else, by a bigger company maybe, to have in place specific processes. But those companies that have looked for us, actually we've not only advised companies, but also NGOs, and they're really open. And maybe in the first interaction you find a little resistance from somebody here and somebody there, and as time goes by, you see how these people are already like on the wave, as we like to call it.
It's very nice to hear you being able to observe progress on that. That's good. That's refreshing. So, Dinia, one thing that you mentioned in your bio as well is that at your home, you see your kids as your teachers about that. How they see the world with, or let's say, less bias than us. So do you have an example of the interactions that strike you? And
yeah, I have several. Like, there are things that there are things that I've taught to them and that they have been applying. So it's very funny to hear them. Like, for example, there was a party a few days ago, a small party, and they gave out like these how do you call them? The things that the kids put in their eyes for the parties. I forgot the name, but
for them not to see anything.
Yeah, it's more like decorating their face with these face masks. Let's call them face masks. And they were like with unicorns and kind of pink. So my 6-year-old girl, she naturally received one. And my 8-year-old boy didn't receive, and they didn't have anything to give out to the kids. So like he's like, oh, I want one. And she tells I wasn't there. And my 8-year-old tells his sister. And she's like, I'll go ask one. So she goes, and she's more like less shy, and she goes there and she asks for this, and it's like, I want one for my brother. And the woman, the mother, says like, oh, but these are for girls. She's like, no, it's unicorns. We don't care. Are you sure your brother doesn't care? Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't care. So she receives one, he gives it to her. But and so he started using it. I mean, he's the only boy using it. And after some girls made some comments, he felt, he didn't feel well, and he turned them the other way around, so they looked white. And they came afterwards to tell me my story, and they're like, Mom, isn't it right that unicorns, like, they can be for boys and for girls? I'm like, yeah, sure. How come? And then they tell me this story. So, it's something that we as adults don't realize, but basically this behavior of the mom just giving out for the girls was discriminating him from having fun and having something. And then he was, I don't want to say bullied. Bully, sometimes it's a very strong word, but he had a bad time with the other girls. So calling out on him. And anyways, we have normally these conversations, but one of these days he was, I took, I don't know, I don't remember now. It was maybe a shirt or something. I don't know. And I'm like, oh, this will look so cute in you. It's like so girly or something like that, I said. And my 8-year-old like, what did you just say, Mom? I'm like, oh no, that this shirt would look good on Alicia. Yeah, but did you say girly? I'm like, yeah. He's like, but didn't you say that colors doesn't matter? And I was like, oh my God, he got me. So even if I'm so aware of this unconscious bias, and really my passion is to change this, the whole world, but especially in young children, like even my kid lets me know how I still have those biases.
That's fantastic. That's really then being a teacher, right? So
yes.
trying to push your bias on them, and the other mom trying to push her bias on them, and they say, no, this is wrong. So it doesn't matter. That's fabulous. Dinia, we have been talking for more than 30 minutes.
Oh my God, time flies.
we didn't even started. So look, we'll need to wrap up, because if these go too long, so it's maybe not attractive for the audience. But I'm very inclined to actually get you back in this show, maybe to talk more about your business in the next series, where we're gonna be talking about innovation and not so much about gender diversity. So Dinia, it has been a awesome pleasure. So I miss you so much. So I do have very fun moments of very funny memories when of the time that we spent together with our friends back in Brazil. So I hope you have a chance to talk more and to explore more what this journey take us, and particularly the gender diversity sort of universe. So before I go, it's just one thing that I want to ask you. So we're here in Australia, and Australia has been very fortunate and blessed, because in this world of the COVID pandemic, so we're really living a life that's almost surreal. So we live as if it didn't exist here. So, and I'm very aware that the reality is not the same in South, Central, and North America. So how are you guys over there?
Right now, we have been better than other moments, but Panama was the country that had the kids the most amount of days out of school, and that's so sad. Actually, my kid went yesterday for his first time since March of last year to school.
Oh, wow.
And most of the kids in Panama haven't returned to school. It's because he's in a private school, and his private school is, is taking the lead as other private schools. So education has been one of the major impacts. It's not only about, of course, the major one is health and poverty, and many people not making ends meet. But education and children specifically have been one of the major victims of COVID here. It's been a gigantic delay, and there's not like easy access for internet for most of the population. So that has taken quite a toll on the society here.
So that's very sad to hear. Sometimes I do feel like as our fortune in being in Australia is actually overshadowed by the fact that we have so many loved ones that are not here, and so going through a situation that is not good at all. So I hope you guys stay well and healthy, and hope that we go through this as soon as we can.
Yeah, vaccination is speeding up here, so we see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
people are with their hopes high to overcome all this.
So Dinia, to close this conversation, so if you have to give an advice for a girl that want to work in an area that's male dominated, like STEM or data science, or areas like that, what is your advice to her?
Okay, there's nothing to fear, really. It's just one more challenge. Life gives you a lot of challenges to overcome, and this one is a very nice one and interesting, and it's life-changing. To be able to be part of a minority, in case you're pursuing a career that where females are still a minority, and taking the STEM career does not make you not be able to achieve other things. So go after it, prepare yourself. Women are absolutely as capable, as intelligent to go after these careers. And I really didn't feel it difficult, actually, being in a STEM career. It's maybe it sounds scarier from the outside, but when you're in, you're just one more there. And prepare yourself and read and get mentors. That's actually maybe the best advice I can give. Get mentors, ideally female mentors, or mentors that are really aware about gender equality and gender diversity, and they will help you go through if you have to face a challenge more difficult than the others.
I love it. So there are lots of things in what you say that I love it. The fact that women as capable, as intelligent, and as everything as any other person. So don't ever fear that, or don't ever doubt that. And about having a mentor to help you in the journey. So I feel very grateful for having you here.
Thank you so much for this invitation. It was awesome to connect with you again, and to see that we have a similar vision in this part of life. It's very, very nice to get to know that about you.
That's it, everyone. This is Dinia Monge, and it was lovely to have her here. I guess I hope you enjoy, and until our next episode of the Changing the Game.
Bye-bye.